It's a happy weekend to you all, wherever you are in the world. There's a presidential campaign taking place right now. The campaign for the president of the Zimbabwe Football Association. It's an exciting time for those of us who follow football, and I've been following some of the leading candidates. And I would like to talk about the three most prominent ones today. My good old friend Marshall Gore, who's based here in the UK, old friend Peter Ndlovu, as well as Ramagaya. I know these candidates personally. I've had an interaction with them in football circles. I've had football discussions with them. I have also observed them working in football. I'll start with Marshall. Marshall, you cannot talk about football involving Zimbabweans here in the UK without mentioning Marshall's name. He has been instrumental in helping parents all across the UK to integrate their children into the British football system, helping to facilitate the access to football academies here. We've also seen him doing some top-level work to try and facilitate the induction of some of these young players into the national team. His diaspora project has been producing results that most of us who have been following his work can really vouch for. He has done quite a lot. He has also worked with former Zimbabwe football legends, the likes of Bruce Grobela, trying to inspire the next generation of professional footballers. His professional ethic, his administration ethic has also been quite visible here in the UK. He runs a football tournament which involves diaspora communities here, year in, year out, and I've been to many of these tournaments and I've seen just how Marshall is as a unifier, as an administrator, but also as a football businessman. I think he will be good as an administrator, and is also very good at building grassroots structures. The sort of approaches that will help put together a solid foundation for the national team. You cannot build a top-heavy national team. You need to start from somewhere. And I think his diaspora project has demonstrated his ability to build grassroots foundation for a firm future of not just our football, but for our national team. And I think I've just been also browsing through his Marshall Plan, which talks about qualifying for the World Cup, the Africa Cup of Nations as a benchmark. I think these are good points. But the most important thing, which I think, or maybe his strength, would be his experience in building grassroots structures that will give us a strong base to build a national team, but also to build a football structure which can be able to attract sponsorship, which can be able to attract money in football. As we all know, football nowadays, it's not just a game. It has become a business. And I think Marshall has got strong attributes that can be able to bring in that base that will bring money into football, and perhaps help us keep some of our best talents at home and be able to remunerate them, and be able to also encourage young people in Zimbabwe to look at football as a viable profession that they can be able to pursue, and also for business to see the game as a worthy partner. So Marshall, I want to wish you the best of luck in the elections, and we'll be looking forward to benefiting from your skills and experience. I would move on to my good old friend Peter Ndlovu. I spent some time with Peter, I think about 2 hours at a hotel in Johannesburg. couple of years ago. We were just going down memory lane. It was my first time to meet Peter Ndlovu in person, and I just wanted to understand him as a person, and that was he's still at Mamelodi Sundowns. Peter, I know whenever you have a discussion about football, Peter Ndlovu will get out of his way to come and listen to you, and he did exactly that. When I gave him a call and he came to my hotel at that time, and we had 2 hours of fascinating discussion about football. As a ZIFA candidate, I think Peter brings in a lot of experience. Number one, he's the first African footballer to play in the Premier League. And there's nothing that beats experience of experiencing something. Not observing, experiencing. He was in the heart of it, playing for Coventry City. He is very well known here in the UK, and all over Africa. But I think what will make him a standout candidate in these ZIFA elections is that experience of playing in the Premier League. It will open a lot of doors. One thing that our football needs is a base to build upon. We need to put in place systems, and I think this is the role of ZIFA. Systems that we can be able to model our local league and structure it and design it in such a way that we can be able to ultimately build a strong national team and be able to build a strong pipeline of talent that we can be able to export to foreign leagues and be able to earn revenue. And Peter Ndlovu has got that ability to open the doors and come up with some kind of synergies between our local clubs and the Premier League. It can be done. I've seen it, other countries doing it, and I think with the right leadership, we can be able to do that. And I think Peter Ndlovu, with his links at Coventry City, with his links in the Premier League, he can be the man to do that and leverage on that name and leverage on that legacy of being the first African player to play in the Premier League. The other thing that makes Peter Ndlovu also a very, very interesting candidate for this position is his current job at Mamelodi Sundowns as a manager of one of Africa's biggest football clubs. It's not a mean achievement. It's a monumental achievement to be at the helm, at the center of activities at this very well managed team, partly because of his acumen as a team manager. But more importantly, it also puts him in good stead because of his knowledge of how the African game is, the architecture of the African game is organized and how it functions. His experience working with Mamelodi Sundowns in the continental football tournaments will give him that opportunity to be able to learn from what's happening elsewhere. He also brings in the experience of being at the helm of probably one of the most organized football leagues in the African continent, the PSL in South Africa. But he has also been exposed to what is happening in Egypt, to what is happening in Morocco, where the other probably two of the strongest local African leagues, as well as in Tunisia. So I think from that point of view, Peter Ndlovu does bring quite a lot of pedigree. He also has access to knowledge and access to the highest offices in African football. He has worked closely with the CAF president, the owner of Mamelodi Sundowns. And I think that puts him in a good position to be able to not just influence things for the betterment of football in Zimbabwe, but also he can leverage that position to be able to also exploit the opportunities that comes with access to the highest offices at FIFA level. And I think it's also important in that regard that Peter Ndlovu has put himself up for this particular position. Just drawing back also to his own personal experiences, I think Peter is a product of what was then a vibrant youth system in Zimbabwe, playing football at Zilikazi High School, and they going on to flourish through the locally organized tournaments like the John Madzima, the famous John Madzima tournament, where he really came to the fore. I think he will have those memories and be able to tap from that memory, from that legacy, and be able to bring that to the fore. Because I strongly think what Zimbabwe football needs now is not qualification for the World Cup or qualification for the Africa Cup of Nations. What Zimbabwe needs now is to build a strong base, grassroots football base, because what we need, the resource in this game, it's not the FIFA president, the ZIFA president. It's not the PSL chairman. It is the young boys, young girls who are dotted all around the country with nothing but just dreams of making it to La Liga, making it to the Premier League, making it to the Serie A, making it to the MLS, making it to the Saudi Pro League. These resources is what we need to tap, and whoever is going to be elected should be able to have this as the pivotal part of the policy. The qualifying for the World Cup, the Africa Cup of Nations, will just be a byproduct of the work that needs to be done at grassroots level. We need to build football academies in all the provinces of Zimbabwe. We need to build a national football center of excellence to be able to harness the national football talent that we have, both boys and girls, and be able to give them the resources that they need so that we can build a stronger base for our national team. The other thing, I think Peter Ndlovu will stand out. I think he's a very good communicator, and I think he has worked with some of the top coaches all around Africa, and I think he has benefited from just having a front row seat of seeing how things are done on an African scale, in the African context at Mamelodi Sundowns. And I think that will put him in good stead as an administrator, but also his dual advantage of his name, his experiences of playing football at the highest level, his struggles with the national team when he was still playing, and also let's not forget his generosity. He used to pay flights, hotel bills, food for the national team. So I think from a personal point of view, Peter Ndlovu has his heart in the right place, and I think that perhaps puts him in good stead also to become the ZIFA president. Lastly, I want to talk about Prophet Maguire, my guy. Prophet Maguire, 2-3 years ago, I spent a day with him at his hotel/church stadium in Waterfalls. I went there with my young man, football journalist Faraya Chamire. We spent a day filming with him and having conversations with him about football. I remember asking him why he was interested in investing in football and whether he was making money. And he told me that he does not make money out of football, and he did not advise me to invest in football because he was telling me that there's no money to be made in football. He was supporting football because of his passion for football. And that day, it was my first time to visit his, what is it called? Sacred Heart, or the name of his stadium. The first impression I had was of a man with a vision. I was impressed to see the football facility that he has put in place in that Waterfalls place. And I think from a football basic infrastructure point of view, I think he has his heart in the right place. And for him to be spending money on football like that and at that scale, I think he truly loves football. At that time, he was fantasizing with a lot of ideas. He wanted to link up with clubs in Europe. He wanted to be able to visit there. He wanted them to come down to also help put in place systems at his football club. But he told me he was disappointed because he didn't get the right response from European clubs. However, that particular day we spoke, there were two Japanese players who were playing at this, training at his club in Harare. And I asked him about these two Japanese players. Then he said, because he felt let down by his attempt to link up with Europe, he decided to look east. And those two Japanese players who were part of his then plan to go east and establish east-south sort of football links. He had a big idea about linking up with China and trying to explore ways of tapping investment into football from China. I don't know how far that has gone, but I could see where he was getting with that, especially if you are thinking of bringing in technology into football. There's no way you can do that without working with companies in China. They are doing that at scale. They are helping even clubs in Europe to also use technology to improve performances. And I think as a country, it's something that we can tap. We can tap into our relationship with China and be able to bring in that technology that will help us, number one, create value for our players. Number two, also help the performance of our players. Because one thing I've noticed, not just in Zimbabwe, but in African football in general, we tend to sell ourselves cheap because we don't have the tools to make the argument for valuing our players. If, for example, we have a Martin Mapisa at Dynamos, brilliant goalkeeper, and we want to build the product that is Martin Mapisa. I'm sorry, in football, that's how they see players. They are products that can be traded just like a tomato, but they are human beings, but they are products. Remember, I said football is a business. So how do we put value on Martin Mapisa? We put value on Martin Mapisa by infusing technology to try and understand his body, to try and understand how we can improve his performance, how he sleeps, how we can make him concentrate more in the game, things like that will need technology. And I think a person like Ramagaya has got his hands on the dial in that particular respect because of the discussion I had with him 2 years ago. I could tell he was getting onto something. And he seems to also have an understanding of the importance of building a base, an infrastructural base, as a way of building the pyramid for a stronger football league, which will ultimately result in a stronger national team. The fact that he decided to build that stadium, I think it's testimony enough of his vision, of how he sees football. And I tend to agree with him on the need to build infrastructure. There is no way you are going to succeed in football or you are going to win tournaments when you globetrot the continent looking for temporary home to play your international matches. It is very important for the next ZIFA president to understand that basic fact, that the best for a strong football structure, national team, football industry is built on sound infrastructure. And I think in that respect, Walter Magaya does have a bit of advantage because he has something to show. He has built a stadium, he has a football team that is running. Never mind his financial woes at the moment, but I just think in terms of having a football vision, he has it. In fact, his football project in Harare reminds me of what I saw in Senegal. You know, the likes of Sadio Mane, Idrissa Gana Gueye, Ismail Assar, all those guys. They came from places like Magaya's football project in Harare. Some of them came from small dusty fields that were turned into artificial turfs, and then, you know, foreign scouts would be invited to see them play, and then one or two are picked by some clubs in France. But one thing that also helps with that kind of approach, it helps you to argue valuation for your players, because if someone is going to come to Harare to scout for players, they can see what you are doing, and by just seeing that infrastructure in place, they can see you're serious about what you are doing, and they'll be, when they deal with you, they are dealing with you at a different level. So it is very, very important for the next ZIFA president to understand that basic, that whatever money is going to be made, the first place that must be considered for expenditure is the building the best football base to be able to facilitate talent to be produced. You cannot produce talent using the chairmansers in Chitungwiza, the chairmansers in Mpandashango out there. We need to build football academies and be able to harvest the talent. I remember when I was at school playing football in Masvingo there, we used to have some brilliant players, even people that I went to school with. Sometimes when we meet nowadays, we talk about some of these players who were really, really good. The left foot that we see in Premier League now, the left footers like, whom can I think of? But anyway, you know, some of these left footers who are really good on the ball. We had them in Zimbabwe, but they got lost in the system because we didn't have a structure that could harness them. And I think it's high time the next ZIFA president be serious about building football infrastructure. So that's my take on the three candidates. I think all of them, with good advice, with a good team around them, and with a good support, financial support base, they can be able to succeed. I think they are all good football men. I can't single out one among them. I think all of them do qualify to become ZIFA presidents. They've got different qualities, but I think whoever wins should not forget the other two. They should deliberately decide to just reach out to the other two, tap into their ideas, because I think all the three of them has got so many good ideas, and they can be able to tap from each other and be able to build a stronger base for the Zimbabwe national team. And I wish them the best of luck, and hopefully they will be able to, whoever wins will be able to prioritize Zimbabwean football. If it was me,